Hi guys, and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing Ride 4. Challenge 30 of the weekly challenges here, and it's time for Ducati Super Naked V4S in the UMC, the Utah Motorsports Campus. So in today's video I'm going to try and give you some pointers and some assistance on how to get the gold in UMC on Challenge 30 of the weekly challenges. Now, 2:50 of course is a long lap time, but don't be put off because the track itself is genuinely not that bad. You can usually make a few mistakes and still get a decent lap time around this track because of course the nature of it being such a wide circuit and using lots of rumble strips, because the rumble strips in this track are genuinely quite massive, so you should be pretty well and pretty confident in your abilities knowing that you can get to the gold. But if you're not and you need a little bit more assistance, I'll try and give you some pointers in this guide here today. So for the time being, just get familiar with the track, just get familiar with the bike. If you've never used the Ducati before, it's rather a powerful bike that you do have to be careful on. I am not running any electronics in the sense of traction control, only maybe one in anti-wheelie I do believe. I don't recall if that's true or not, but maybe consider putting anti-wheelie on if you do find that this bike tends to wheelie that a little bit too much. So now I have the triple left-handers of Demon, so you go into the left-hand side for the first time, left again and left once more for Diablo, and then get onto the right-hand side. Now if you are using the racing guide, of course you'll have the arrows on the track, but if you're not using that, you can see quite clearly the thick black tarmac lines that you can see with all the rubber has been laid down. That is your racing line, and I would probably advise you to stay there. Now of course in this track there is so many fast parts that you have to be pretty brave and confident with, and then bring on the brakes rather gradually. Being smooth on the brakes and smooth on the acceleration is quite important in this track because of course with the Ducati Super Naked being a rather powerful bike, probably best just to bring on the acceleration in a controlled manner. None of this abrupt acceleration and just bringing the controller straight to its full braking point immediately, because of course you will make a lot of mistakes. But going into the left-hander now for Agony, you can go quite wide into the corner here and then bring it to the left-hand side for Ecstasy, because those corners need to be in a sort of a longer circle shape or semi-oval if you will, or even a V shape to make sure you navigate into the next corner. Now you can see for first attitude, second attitude and third attitude, bad attitude in the third corner of the attitude trilogy, you can use a lot of rumble strip there. I didn't do it for the purpose of this particular lap, but as you'll see in the next lap and then the one after that, I'm going to use a lot of that just to show you how much rumble strip you can use on this track without it getting invalidated. So that's a little bit of a benefit for you guys who may be struggling. So going into the penultimate corner on our first lap, after this one I'm going to give you a good breakdown on all the braking markers on how to get into some of these corners, because the braking markers in this one are quite difficult compared to some of the other tracks, but I'm going to try and give you some advice because of course on the left and right hand side you're just basically covered in sand and gravel, so it's not as easy to show you, but I will still give you some pointers nonetheless. So at the end of pit lane here you want to start bringing on the brakes. Now I didn't actually go for the full front brake, but of course you can do towards a little bit further into the actual braking zone, but I'm trying to give you a pointers here as if we're going to do it rather casually and controlled, and then for the next lap I'll go for an all-out banger. But for the time being, the left-hand side now for workout, nice and tight to the apex or roughly in the middle of the track to go wider towards the rumble strip on the right-hand side to then bring it into the left-hand side for Scream. Now keep an eye out for the braking zones there on your right-hand side. You see in the number 3, make sure you're braking just before then and you should have no problem going into the Black Rock hairpin. So now onto the left-hand side for turn 5, coming out of that corner, you'll be looking to the right-hand side. Make sure you're braking well before that rumble strip. That rumble strip is a little bit of a bugger because if you brake on the rumble strip, you're probably going to be braking too late or very, very hard to stop the Ducati Super Naked. So going wide into the triple left-handers, of course, as we mentioned earlier, following that racing line. I went a little bit too tight there and a little bit slower, but you can still make the corners nonetheless, because of course the important thing here is not necessarily getting the fastest lap time right off the bat, but to get yourself into it, get yourself into a flow, get yourself into the track, learning the basics of this track and how to use the Ducati Super Naked in its finest form as well, if you will. So going on to the right hand side now, up by 0.8 of a second of course compared to the previous lap, but that doesn't really matter right now as we're going to faster. Make sure you're bringing on the brakes and being calm going into turn 15, and the same can be said here for the right hander. Now in this corner for the maybe you'll make it, I did use the left hand rumble strip on the end of the other corner just to bring the motorcycle in, so basically I use that as a guide to understand when to chuck the Ducati Super Naked in. And so going into Agony now for the left hander, we're going to run it deep towards the rumble strip on the outside of the track and then bring it back in for the left-hander for ecstasy, nice and tight across the rumble strip, and then bring on the acceleration. Bring on the brakes as you get near the rumble strip to the right-hand side there for first attitude. Get on the rumble strip there, and then just completely abuse the rumble strip for that one, and of course it's going to gain you quite a lot of time, so if you are struggling maybe by about a second, you can certainly gain it into that rumble strip right there. So on the left-hand side now for turn 23, pretty easy corner to navigate, and then of course we have another left-hander here, braking roughly at the number 3 on the braking markers, nice and tight to the apex, as we then bring on the power, brake at the rumble strip for the left-hander there for wind up. Of course the rumble strip was on the left-hand side for this right-hander is what I'm trying to say, and then on the left-hand side for release, get into the apex if you can on the exit, and then fire this Ducati across the line. This is going to be good enough for gold again, and it should be an improvement of about a second and a bit. So one more lap, this time I'm going to absolutely go for it, just give it everything I've got and see what lap time we can get. Still probably need to learn this track and bike myself, but going into the braking zone into turn 1, still very controlled but firmer on the brakes this time. You can see we're very close to the apex as we bring on the power gently and controlled. You can use the bottom right hand corner of your screen there to understand how much brake is being applied and how much acceleration is being applied as well. So not all this track of course is full acceleration, usually it's around 75% to 80% to then 100 when you're accelerating extremely fast. So going into the left-hander now, braking very, very firmly just before that number 3, as mentioned the lap before. Going wide into the Black Rock hairpin, you can use the rumble strip there, is what I was saying earlier on. The rumble strips are quite friendly in this track. They don't tend to bop you around or move you around, so you can use them quite nicely, and the same can be said here for knockout. And then bringing on the power, giving it everything we've got coming out of the corner, a wider line using that rumble strip. And now for the left-handers, going wide into this left-hander to then give you that sort of tighter apex going into Devil and for Diablo, nice and tight on the exit there, but a little bit too eager on the tuck-in with the acceleration there, did slide the rear wheel. But now onto the right hand side for turn 12 for precision, nice and tight to the apex so we can then bring on the power quite gradually and then go for it coming out of the corner. We're going to be up by quite a lot of time here as we now go onto the right hand side, up by a second and a bit. Hold that acceleration, hold the lean angle, and then begin to bring on the brakes ever so slightly, just going into gotcha for turn 15. You can run it a little bit deep there, but use that rumble strip as a guide to then flick it back in for the maybe you'll make it corner for turn 16. Bring on the power once again, going into the right-hander of Satisfaction, nice and tight, following that racing line. It went a little bit too wide there, wanted to go a little bit tighter, but unfortunately made a minor mistake as we now go into the left-hander of Agony, running it wide again as you mentioned earlier, and now going to the left-hand side for Ecstasy. We're going to bring on the acceleration, use this next rumble strip as a guide when to bring in to brake, and there it is, braking in for first attitude, using the rumble strip, using the second rumble strip to its entirety, and getting on the left-hand side for bad attitude. So you can see how much time we actually gain and save by using that rumble strip. Ran it a little bit wide going in for the 12 turn, but thankfully still managed to keep this Ducati going as we now brake at the number 3 mark, going into the left-hander. Ran it a little bit deep going into Clubhouse corner. I was a little bit later on the brakes than I would have liked as we now go into wind up, kind of compromise my entry going into this corner from the previous corner, but now going into the final corner, the final lap. It should be a really, really good lap this one, and it should put me well up on the leaderboards, but for the time being, using everything we've got to get across the line, it's going to be a 2:38.639. So those are my 3 lap times at the Utah Motorsports Campus in Salt Lake City. Pretty good sectors for all the way through on the final lap, but unfortunately I did mention to that mistake I made into Sector 4, so unfortunately not full green on the final lap. So now looking at the leaderboard, we are sitting quite pretty at the top of the timing sheets for now. Probably going to change, but for the time being, quite happy with that. But more importantly, I hope that's helped you guys to get a bit of understanding and learn a little bit about UMC and the Ducati Super Naked V4S for this weekly challenge. So guys, if it has helped, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you have enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. And consider hitting the notification bell to be alerted to every single DrAce upload and live stream. Thanks for watching guys, and ciao for now.
Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite sate your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.